Hi neighbors, quick personal note. I just got back from vacation. I came home with a cold. I don't feel real great, but I needed to get this out before the end of the weekend. So you've got it before the meeting coming up on Wednesday for the Essex Junction City Council. I want to make sure you're prepared. And I want you to know about it before it happens and before the vote happens this Wednesday. Including on the agenda a major change to Park Street, which is getting closer to reality as the City Council is being asked to approve nearly $20,000 in road striping that will remove much of the on-street parking and create buffered bike lanes. But painting the road isn't enough, and the council is also being asked to change city ordinances before some of those parking spaces can legally disappear. Also this week, the planned November vote for borrowing the money for the West Street Sewer Project is going to be pushed back. And the city's new logo is about to become a little more visible, and there's an update on the new mission and value statements for city employees. So here's what you need to know before this Wednesday night's meeting with the Essex Junction City Council. Hi everybody, I'm Marcus Serta, former Essex Junction City Councilor, and welcome to the Essex Junction Packet Podcast, a show that is not produced or affiliated with the City of Essex Junction or the City Council. I'm here to just try to help residents understand what's happening in city government, hopefully make it a little bit more approachable. The City Council is going to be meeting this Wednesday, August 26th at 6:30 p.m. at 2 Lincoln Street. Check out what's happening because there's going to be some doozies, including Park Street. This project has been in front of the council before. Back on April 29th, the council selected what the city calls Alternative 1 buffered bike lanes for Park Street. Under that design, on-street parking would be removed from much of the corridor. Vehicle travel lanes are going to be reduced to 11 feet, and the city would add 7-foot bike lanes with 4-foot painted buffers on both sides. Now, the final design is complete, and the city has put the road striping work out to bid. They received only one bid. K5 Marking submitted a price just shy of $20,000, and the city's engineer has recommended awarding them the contract. The bid calls for the work to be completed by October 30th, and the project includes removing existing pavement markings, painting new bike lanes, crosswalks, adding bike symbols, green pavement markings, and other traffic markings. Also, there's going to be another interesting change because you might think that once the council approves a street design, the public works can simply go out and paint the new configuration. Not quite. Some of the parking spaces being eliminated on Park Street actually exist in the city's Municipal Code. So even if the pavement markings disappear, those parking areas legally remain until the council changes the ordinance. That's why there's really two decisions coming up this Wednesday for the project. First, the council will be asked to authorize $19,673.50 for the striping contract. The proposed changes would remove parking on the east side of Park Street for the entire length and remove additional parking on the west side between the railroad tracks and the Williston line. The existing 1-hour parking restriction between Iroquois Avenue and the driveway for 3739 Park Street would also disappear because those parking spaces themselves are being removed. There's also a small technical change involving bike lanes. The ordinance currently prohibits motor vehicles from operating in a bike lane, with the exception of entering or leaving a driveway. The proposed language would also specify allowing a driver to cross the bike lane when maneuvering into a legal parallel parking space. Now, there's going to be one additional ordinance change, and this is unrelated to the traffic change being bundled into the ordinance update, which could easily be overlooked if you're, taking a look at this project because it's all about Park Street. The city is proposing a new stop sign on Pine Court at West Street. According to the packet, the city engineer reviewed the intersection in July and recommended a stop sign and painted stop bar because of limited sight distance at that location. Because stop signs are also governed by Chapter 8, staff is proposing making the change at the same time. If the council moves forward on Wednesday, staff recommends holding a public hearing on these ordinance changes coming up on September 9th at 6:30 p.m. If the ordinance is ultimately adopted and no voter petition is filed, it would take effect 60 days after that adoption. So Wednesday night is an important step for Park Street, but it is not the final step. So if you have interest in this particular project, Wednesday night is a meeting you want to pay attention to. Next is an important change to something we've been following for the last several meetings, and this is the West Street Pump Station, which has already been designed for replacement. And during that design work, engineers determined the existing force main, the pipe carrying wastewater from the pump station toward the treatment facility, is undersized. And that means replacing only the pump station would not provide the additional system capacity that the city is looking for and needs for development projects upcoming. The problem is that this force main work was not included in the previous $3.8 million bond voters approved for the pump station replacements. That means the city needs additional funding, and at the July 22nd meeting, the council approved a resolution of necessity preparing for a bond vote in November. But that plan is now going to change. The city staff says more work is needed to determine the full cost of the project, and because of that, staff is recommending that the city not hold the bond vote in November. Instead, the proposal is to bring it to voters at the 2027 annual meeting. And according to the packet, the city's legal counsel says that the council does not need to undo the previous resolution of necessity. It can simply be updated once the project is ready to move forward. Now, this item is actually sitting in the consent agenda, but it's a meaningful change from what residents were told earlier this summer, and it can be easily overlooked because of where it's located. If the vote is passed on the consent agenda, then of course, we don't have a vote planned in November for that particular bond. The council is also going to be receiving on Wednesday an update on the rollout for the Essex Junction's new city logo. You've probably been seeing it pop up here and there. City staff have switched to some new templates, and in the August community newsletter introduced the new logo, colors, and fonts, but the next phase is going to be a bit more visible, as the city has been working with its website provider for an updated look to the municipal website. Now, staff does describe this as just a, slight design change, but it is not a complete redesign. So it's not about an expensive cost to completely overhaul the website. This is just an aesthetic change. And the city has been approved to use essexjunction.gov. This particular discussion has also happened in the past. There are some advantages to using a .gov address that the city has described before, but if you want more information on that, you can search on that on the city website. But this new .gov address, they want to release at the same time with a full rollout of the city logo. So the city is seeking pricing for new signs, light pole banners, truck decals, the sign at Railroad and Main. Policies, forms, ordinances are all going to be updated later, but again, they are starting to really roll out this new look and feel that new design came from with the project from last year. Now, there's also going to be an organizational update coming up on this Wednesday's meeting, and this will eventually affect city policy. Staff has been working on some new statements. Identified in that process was that employees' workplace experiences weren't always consistent across city departments. The goal was to create a clear expectation about how employees work together, how the organization serves the public, and the new organizational values are these: stewardship, collaboration, and service with humanity. The new framework also includes two broad organizational goals, including one focused on delivering reliable, accessible, and sustainable public services. The other focuses on creating a healthy workplace and building the city's long-term capacity to serve its community. This is just informational for now, but it's an important and interesting discussion to follow, as again, this could make some changes to how city policy is drafted in the future. The city is not being asked to adopt these on Wednesday night. This is just going to be up for discussion. Now, eventually the city council will have to vote this as an update for the city personnel regulations, so we'll see how that goes. There's also going to be an appointment on this week's agenda. Staff is recommending Brittany McGregor as the city's new deputy health officer beginning on September 1st. McGregor, who is currently the town of Essex zoning administrator, is going to become the town's health officer on September 1st. And the city and town's health officers support each other through the deputy position. The packet says that there's no additional cost to the city. One small distinction though, the city council recommends the appointment. They're not the ones who actually make the decision of who sits in that position. The actual appointment is actually made by the Vermont Department of Health, and so that comes later. The council has to approve making that recommendation. There's a few items on the consent agenda I wanted to note for you as well, including EGRP is asking the council to reserve 16 parking spaces at Park Street School for preschool families and staff. The spaces would be the 8 closest spaces on each side of the parking lot near the preschool entrance. They would be reserved Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. The preschool currently serves about 45 kids, and staff says that non-preschool vehicles have been increasingly using the lot and sometimes forcing families with young children to park farther away and start to walk through active traffic areas. This could be a potentially dangerous situation, so you want to mitigate that and make this parking change. The entire lot has about 42 spaces, which means about 26 spaces are going to remain for general public use, and of course you'll have use of all of it in the off hours. The council is also going to be asked to allow Justice of the Peace candidates to appear on the back of the November general election ballot. Because Justice of the Peace is technically a local election, the city council has to authorize putting those candidates on a state-produced ballot. If they don't, then the city would have to create and mail the separate ballot. Staff is recommending using the back of the general election ballot, which would avoid, of course, the additional expense. Also in the consent is a few liquor license approval and administrative change, allowing city finance director to submit some documents and payment requests associated with the state water infrastructure financing programs. Finally, in the reading file, which is before the council this week on Wednesday night, residents may want to start paying attention to what the Planning Commission is up to, because they're continuing their work on the major updates to the city's land development code. Now, as we've discussed in previous discussions, this code is being adopted and changed in order to allow for form-based code. The August 11th Planning Commission minutes specifically discussed proposed form-based code changes and building heights up to 10 stories as part of the city center planning work. Now, this appears in the Planning Commission minutes, which is included in that reading file, and the Planning Commission is scheduled for a public hearing on the proposed land development code amendments for September 3rd. So look, if this is something you've been paying attention to, whether it's the building heights or these changes that are happening to the land development code, this is a meeting you might want to attend to get more information and even give your opinion if you have thoughts about how this project is moving forward. Eventually, this will make its way to the city council. This is the place, though, where the meat of the matter will be decided, because the Planning Commission is putting a lot of work into this project. So the biggest decision on Wednesday night comes down to these things. Park Street. The council is going to authorize, or could authorize, nearly $20,000 in striping work that moves that buffered bike lane design toward final construction, while beginning the ordinance process necessary to legally remove the affected parking spaces. Also on Wednesday at the same time, one infrastructure decision is moving in the opposite direction, and that's of course the West Street Force Main bond vote, which is being delayed until next town meeting day. And as part of the ordinance changes, a new stop sign could be going in at Pine Court and West Street. We'll also be seeing the next stage of the city's new branding and move toward essexjunction.gov. The City Council meets this upcoming Wednesday, August 26th at 6:30 p.m. at 2 Lincoln. And look, this is always an opportunity for the public to be heard. Public to be heard is at the beginning of the meeting. That's an opportunity for you to participate, whether you're in person or online through Zoom. Or look, if you just want to watch, you can do that too through Town Meeting TV on their YouTube channel as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps you understand some of the decisions that are shaping our community before those votes are cast. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you before the next meeting.